Good evening, afternoon, night, morning, whatever you find a way to watch or listen to this podcast. It is me, Omar Sean Borov Hardware, aka the Burger Popper. I know that nickname's been pretty popular among some of the podcast appearances that I've had on other podcasts on other channels. But I'm joined today by SSN UMass, another member of the great SSN Sideline Sports Network family. Of course, if you watch the podcast or listen to it, you know that I've had Cuthbert of SSN Army on multiple times before. And now I'm joined by SSN UMass to just discuss some UMass scheduling, a little bit of the UMass Army rivalry, and I guess before we start, can you give some background on how you and I guess how you came to be with doing the SSN UMass account, and then if you want me to call you by a first name, I mean not too much information, but if you want me to call you by first name or anything, just
Yeah,
just
you can
let
call
me
me.
know.
First name is Brian.
All right, Brian. Yeah, so we got Brian SSN UMass. So I guess yeah, just like tell us about how you stumbled upon the SSN UMass account, running it, and just anything else you want to share, including your background with UMass.
Thanks, Omar. Thank you for having me on. I saw they were looking for someone to cover UMass back in August, right before the football season, and I've always been a diehard UMass fan. I grew up in Amherst. My father worked for UMass. I went to UMass. So all my friends growing up, basically, their parents were part of UMass. The coaches there, I was very connected to UMass, and Uh, just thought it would be really fun to cover the team for the SSN network, and I have a lot of knowledge and I have more time on my hands these days. So I thought I would be a good fit for SSN and for myself.
Yeah, and like I was telling you before, I really admire the Sideline Sports Network for giving a lot of these schools like a platform that they wouldn't normally have. And like UMass isn't a small school. Of course, they're an FBS program. Like I'm not belittling UMass or acting like they're different, but like the other day on my recommended, I saw a recommendation to follow SSN Randolph Macon College, SSN RMC. So they're really doing a great work on just creating community for a lot of these programs. And just like I always tag SSN accounts for schools that I cover to try to just get that content out to the masses. Um, just because a lot of schools are undercovered. So really love the work that Sideline Sports Network does, and I mean I'm glad that they have you on board because I mean your coverage of UMass and your opinions. I enjoy reading your commentary.
Thank you. It's nice to be able to kind of give a little bit more platform to more people to see UMass, because a lot of other people that have their UMass sites too, that are fan sites too, but it's kind of nice to get uh, UMass into the SN network. And I've also had contact with a Randolph Macon sideline person because their quarterback was from the same town as my brother grew up in Massachusetts. So, and they have a really good football team. So it's kind of fun to, I deal with a Division III school at the same time.
Yeah, I mean it's just funny how like I guess it just all works out, and yeah, like you said, just I mean great content throughout the accounts and everything. So I guess that being said, like our podcast, I've been off for about a month. This is I guess like my second podcast on the channel, even though I had an appearance on another podcast recently. Just like while I was out doing training and everything about for a month, UMass released their final non-conference opponent, which like I thought all along because they had an FBS, they had an FCS opponent already scheduled that they would schedule one of the schools needing an FCS game. I know that the list was like pretty small. It was like SMU, Hawaii, and a couple others.
UNLV, I think, was one of them.
Yes, right. UNLV. Yes, I did do that right. That's true. I think
Yeah, it was very well
UNLV.
done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. UNLV was one that I really jockeyed for because, it's Las Vegas, it feels like a bowl
Yep.
game. But it turns out instead of getting Las Vegas, UMass got a Northeast Conference school, their second one on the schedule. So I guess what are your thoughts on how completing the schedule went down? What are your thoughts on playing two Northeast Conference schools?
At first, of course, I was a little disappointed because I wanted a UNLV because I wanted to fly out to Las Vegas to the game. But when I looked at it by the money way, it makes sense. I mean, I think they're playing Central 250K, and they're paying Wagner 300K. That's nothing these days. I mean, Maine is getting paid, I think, 635K to play Oklahoma. So the money now is kind of filtering down. So it's actually cheaper for UMass to get games against NEC schools than it is to get games against the old Yankee Conference teams.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the Yankee Conference because that's going to come up big in our later discussion. But also too, I had the same opinion as you because for me, I was like, you have these FBS schools, especially Hawaii. Hawaii is in really bad shape right now because I know that you guys have the scheduled series from 2026 to 2027, which I plan on going to the 2026 Hawaii UMass game in Hawaii. I'm gonna check
Wow.
that off of my Hawaii. I guess like being a college football fan, going and watching a Hawaii game, I'm gonna check that off because I love intersectional games.
Yep.
And I mean, yeah, I've also told my fiance like, hey, like we're not having kids until after that game. No, no, we're not having kids until after UMass Hawaii. But that being said, I thought you guys were gonna go the Hawaii route possibly or in that way, but I know that's expensive. But like you said,
It,
looking at the money, getting two wins, essentially paying for two wins, because I think the days of UMass dropping FCS, I don't want to jinx you guys, but the days of you guys, I guess the FCS game being a swing game are over with UMass. I love the direction that Don Brown's taking the program. So for you guys to pay for two wins, like I said, don't want to jinx you guys, but you guys to pay for two winnable games, 500K, like you said, that's nothing. So that aspect I like. What I don't like is for me as an Army fan, um, I guess no FBS fan base really enjoys their FCS games, but for me, I guess whenever Army would bring in FCS school, I was blessed because FCS schools that we brought in for our paycheck games were schools that I guess had some intrigue to them. Um, whether it be a Patriot League school that has a ton of history in the Northeast, has a rich history, whether it be like a Fordham, a Colgate, or a Lafayette, would it be a school like that? Or I guess one year, my junior year, they brought in Morgan State, an HBCU with a ton of history in the greater New York City area, in the New York City metro. Uh, to say the least, I'm not trashing the Northeast Conference. I do a good amount of coverage. A lot of my FCS coverage actually covers the Northeast Conference. I'm trying to get on the Northeast Conference's payroll, with the amount of coverage I talk about. But schools like Central Connecticut State, who one of the schools that UMass plays, and the other school, Wagner, they don't have much history, much history, much college football history, much less a history with UMass in terms of like shared experience, in terms of like a rivalry. So for me, that's why I was like, why don't they just play, a Maine, a New Hampshire, bring back the Colonial Clash and whatnot. So I guess I just want to know your thoughts, like with I guess the, just what I guess my opinion.
I think it's all about money now because UNH is playing Minnesota this year, and URI is playing Central Florida. I think for those schools now, their ability to play those schools has kind of pushed them up for more money, so they can make a lot more money playing against the Power Five teams than they can playing for UMass, getting what 300, maybe 350 to play UMass. Why not play against Oklahoma, get double the money? And the national exposure, and actually the football with the transfer portal, a lot of the teams like Maine and UNH have moved up players. It's funny though that UNH's star quarterback is now going to be Minnesota's quarterback, and the quality of the players are just evening out more. So I think it's better for the top FCS programs to start paying even more Power Five teams than playing at UMass and not making as much money, and probably losing too now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. That definitely is a great point too about I think the quarterback's Max Brosmer for New Hampshire,
Yep,
going to Minnesota because like you said, I guess in a prior interaction that we had on the timeline about UMass playing these Power Five schools and it being sort of an opportunity to scout talent and build relationships beforehand, whether you see the way that UMass, I
yep,
guess, runs their program and whatnot. So I guess these games are definitely becoming like I guess the bigger schools like Minnesota are willing to pay these schools money to I guess for these sort of scouting appearances. So it makes sense for sure. And I mean, again, like you said, money rules today because it is so hard to get financials on TV contracts for independent schools in terms of a
yep.
money perspective. So, but I can't imagine ESPN's paying top dollar to UMass to air games on ESPN Plus and one token game on ESPN linear platforms. So, I mean, money is everything, like you say.
Yeah, and when they play the Power Five, they get on the SEC network or the Big Ten network. That's great for UMass. It's great for any of those schools, the lower FBS level schools, to get on those networks.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess going back to speaking of New Hampshire, since we talked about them earlier, I guess what are your thoughts on UMass? I guess kind of avoiding They're old Yankee Conference slash Atlantic 10 slash CAA rivals. I say that, I guess I want to say the old guard of the CAA. I guess what are your thoughts on those? Because like I said, like what I guess for our FCS games, like I want to for Army's FCS games, I want to see them play schools that like they have some relation to, not just a random school that's close by. One I forgot to mention was also my junior year, VMI. Like Army playing a VMI, there is a shared
Yep.
link between Army and VMI. Um, there's not so much a shared link between UMass and Wagner, Central Connecticut State, or like going back like I don't want to mention this and give a bad taste in your mouth, but the Southern Illinois game, there's no link
Yep.
between those schools. So I guess what are your thoughts on UMass kind of avoiding Yankee Conference schools?
I don't know if it's avoiding, but I like this last season when we played Merrimack. They're a big hockey rivalry. We play them in a lot of sports now. I like playing Merrimack. Stonehill now is moved up. I like UMass if we're gonna have a game to play Stonehill. Schools that are more local. I mean, I think it's better for everybody in Massachusetts. It's closer to travel, but I'm not that upset now playing against Maine or New Hampshire or URI. I think UMass plays a hard enough schedule already that those schools are not even really a break anymore as a lower level school, even if UMass has improved. So have they. So I think if we're going to play at least an FCS school, it should be a school that it's good for them, a Central or a Wagner to play up to UMass, and it's good for UMass to kind of get more of a buy-in game because UMass has been the buy-in game for so many years. So I think it works both ways. Playing a top a UNH team that it maybe I don't know. It's another hard game on UMass's schedule. It's a hard game sometimes for any FBS team to play some of the top FCS teams. So I think it's financial wise, it's better for UMass to pay out less money for more of a guaranteed win and a break. Nothing against those schools, but I just think compared to the past, that the level of play, even the NEC teams have moved up now. Long Island plays two FBS teams sometimes a season now. So I think Merrimack's playing Air Force and someone in Yukon, I
UConn,
think.
yeah, UConn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they're playing up now too.
yeah. I mean, I think playing up is the perfect term for it because, like you say, like really testing your program out. I mean, and whatnot. Also, too, I guess on Merrimack, I guess it's cool for me. I scratch my head seeing Merrimack travel all the way from North Andover to Colorado Springs to play at the Air Force Academy. But
Yeah.
it's the Air Force Academy. That's a fun, once in a lifetime. Um, I personally don't think I guess like passing reviews are cool, but I guess you get to see a march on, you get to see a pregame parade.
Yep.
It's a whole show and everything. It's like I guess now that I haven't done a parade in like I guess 3 years, I kind of do miss it. I kind of do miss passing reviews. I guess that's just the old grad of me speaking.
Yep.
um, but yeah, like you say, like I mean, it's just I guess times are changing and you want your paycheck games like tradition be darned, you want your paycheck games to be your paycheck games where you can like get out of there with the win and everyone feeling all warm inside. The CAA doesn't really, I guess, grant that, even though I mean nowadays we'll see because a lot of I guess two of the CAA's like most consistent programs are out, so it's a different CAA these days.
Yeah. Yeah. With
So
James Madison now moved up, and it's a big difference. I know, but the quality of the team. Look at how fast James Madison could leave the CAA and be an excellent FBS level team.
yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. So I'm excited for Delaware's rise, but I know there's a lot of there's a lot of I guess not really bad blood, but a lot of kind of like jawing between, a lot of whispering between Delaware's fan base and, other CAA fan bases, so it's like I guess I'll say the joke that Delaware would rather play in Las Cruces or El Paso than play a road game at Hampton or NCA&T. It's kind of or Bryant too, for that matter.
Yep.
It's kind of messed up, but um I'll let that comment go. Don't want to produce any more bulletin board material because that's not the first time I've produced bulletin board material regarding Delaware. So
Yeah. I y- UMass used to have a great rivalry. It was a very heated and hated rivalry between Delaware and UMass because Delaware fans are a lot of the Philly type people, and then you get the Massachusetts people for UMass, and it was definitely a interesting rivalry. I hope maybe it happens again. You never know.
yeah, and I think on that note, like I think it will happen again because a lot of schools nowadays, like with like non-conference, a lot of schools that are in conferences, like with as much, I guess, geographic reach as Conference USA, will try to take advantage of regional non-conference rivalries. I know Stanford vowed to like never play San Jose State at San Jose State, for instance, but other than the SEC, they lengthened that series a good like a good amount, a few games like that series where including a couple games where they will go to San Jose State. I see the same thing for Delaware, where Delaware will see how much they travel and just take advantage of, having like two road games, maybe one against UConn, one against UMass, where they travel to one and host one each year to sort of like save costs and I guess limit their road trips to like, a couple of really um ridiculously long road trips a year. So I'm excited for the future of UMass Delaware.
Yeah, and I don't even think those trips when you're on a charter flight are even that bad anymore. I mean, UMass flies chartered to those locations, and it's what maybe a 4 to 5 hour flight chartered. You're right there, you stay overnight, and then right after the game they fly home. It's so I don't see it that big a deal, at least for football. I mean, for the other sports, that's another conversation, but for college football, I don't see a big deal to flying out to El Paso for like a Delaware to play there or a
Yeah,
UMass.
exactly. Yeah, I totally agree, especially with like you said, Philadelphia being nearby, major airport. It's the smaller cities that I guess are trouble when it comes to that conference. Um
Most of them, though, if
so
you look at it, are not that far away from major cities in the CUSA. Almost all the schools are not that far. I think an hour to an hour and a half is the longest any of the schools are away from a major city.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean a good amount. I know you got the Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, in Nashville and whatnot. And, like, of course, you got FIU in Miami, and you can just name go through the conference and realize that for sure. So,
Yep.
I do agree. I guess going on to our closing topic, um, the Army UMass game, something we talked about before, something that of course like we have vested interest in. I just want to know your thoughts on that on the future of that rivalry, which I guess from how it seems, Army is prioritizing Power Five games and one FCS game, which as much as I hate the FCS game, I understand their viewpoint. But one FCS game, one Power Five game. So it looks like UMass and Army will not meet on the gridiron in the near future a unless it is in a bowl game. So I guess I want to know your thoughts on that rivalry. I guess on the future of the rivalry.
Yeah, like people said, it's not really a rivalry, but it was a fun game against schools not that far apart. A nice Northeast battle. And as a former Army person myself, as I told you about, work with a lot of West Pointers, I like that part of the rivalry. I kind of got a kick out of that. UMass was playing Army, but it hasn't been UMass's way because it's been so bad for so long. But after this last season, UMass was actually competitive and won the game. And I think that they're closer. The teams are getting in ability closer together. That UMass is kind of catching up to Army in some ways. I'm really gonna miss it. It was always just nice for people to go out to West Point. I've never been out to a game there because I don't live in that area anymore. But it was always nice just to watch UMass play there. And I know a lot of UMass fans love to go to West Point, and they have you have a great traveling fan base that would come out to Amherst for a game. So I think it was really good for both programs because a lot of UMass people can go to the game at West Point. I mean, I saw the game and the fans and the stands were really crowded, full of maroon. And that's pretty big for a UMass fan base to travel. And then a lot of West Pointers were at the UMass game in Amherst. And so I think it's going to be missed. But Army's going to have their own problems being back in the conference, but you and I can discuss that another time.
Yeah, that sounds great. I guess another time discussing Army and American because like I enjoy the move for sure. It's just independence is great, but in this current age of college football, like I legitimately have concerns about like I guess a lot of non-conference matchups, especially when people talk about a split. So I mean, definitely would love to discuss that further. But I do agree. I think for me, like we talked before, how Northeast football has been in decline since I guess that kind of shared sense of unity, that shared sense of rivalry. It's in decline. Since the fall of the Big East. So we got to take what we can get, and I mean, with Army joining the American, we have a little bit of a corridor in the American with Army, Temple, and Navy. So it'll be nice to see those games on a yearly basis. But for UMass, not so much. I mean, you guys just got UMass UConn in terms of Northeast rivalries, which is why I mean I hope to see UMass versus Delaware, in the near future. Even UMass
Yep.
JMU. I know JMU is on a whole nother level compared to UMass and Army too. And Army. I'm not throwing shots at either program. I mean, JMU is a New Year's Six, or I guess not New Year's Six, a 12 team playoff contender. But even that one, some sort of familiarity, some semblance of a Northeast rivalry is necessary for college football because you know there is once a time when we had the Big East, we had Penn State, Pitt, we had all these Northeast rivalries, and like now we value, even this year when RB played Boston College, like I remember the CBS sports broadcast, they showcased the history of the rivalry, and I know CBS does a lot of good cinematic introductions, and it was cool that Army Boston College got that reverend treatment. But that's just, I guess, my long-winded thoughts on the decline of Northeast rivalries. But I'm gonna miss it too, for sure. And like I said before on the podcast, like I hope to see you guys again because like you're playing pickup basketball, you can't end on a miss. I don't want Army to end on a miss.
You're still on our schedule for 2025, so you never know.
Okay. Yeah, so with that one, so with that situation, I know we're gonna keep it FCS school, but I think the Kansas State game is gonna be the one to stay, sadly. I don't
Okay.
yeah, I don't mean to put a damper on your hopes, but yeah, I think Army's just slow to cancel their games. Army's just kind of slow to finalize things because I'm still waiting on an official Army Notre Dame announcement so I can, have them take my money on a flight and, try to get Notre Dame tickets on the secondary market. But yeah, I think they're just slow to cancel the game.
Understand. Do you know how much money they're paying out to UMass to cancel the game? Do you have any idea?
I do not. I'd have to check FB schedules again, but I know the Berkshire Eagle had broke the news of the contract being canceled, but I kind of wonder if there's a clause in there if either school joined a conference to
Yep.
protect both schools. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a small sum, if nothing at all.
Okay, because I was just was wondering if that's the money they're using to pay for the central game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that might be an option too. I'd have to look. I mean, I'd have to. I know the Berkshire Eagles might have paywall, so that's why I'm
Yep.
kind of like iffy. I'm kind of iffy on investigating that, but I will
Yeah.
say that I have my means to get behind those paywalls, which I mean I will not share. You can just Google them.
Yeah.
And
There's a site I know too.
I'll plead the fifth on that.
Yep. But I went to the UMass Notre Dame game, and if you can go, it's for a football fan, it's an incredible experience to go to a game at Notre Dame Stadium.
Oh, this game would be at Yankee Stadium. So
Oh,
like that
okay.
that's why I'm
Gotcha.
going bonkers over it because I mean I grew up hearing the stories, Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside, and
Yep.
win one for the Gipper and everything. So this is a dream come true.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess that being said, Brian, do you have anything final to add? Do you have anything you want to promote while we're out here?
No, just looking forward to the season coming up. I can't wait till it seems too far off, but we got spring football coming, and UMass just hired a new offensive coordinator, so it should be interesting spring practices for UMass with a new offensive coordinator. But hey, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for taking the time. Thank you for being patient with me first and foremost. And yeah, like I will be rooting for UMass for sure. I mean, a lot of your games this year were just fun to watch, honestly. I remember the Toledo game was fun. I mean, a lot
Yep.
of people forget Toledo. You guys had Toledo on the ropes early on, and
Yep.
then Eastern Michigan. That's another bowl team, a team that maybe they should have been in a bowl. After watching the bowl game, maybe they shouldn't have been in a bowl.
Yeah.
But I
Yep.
mean, that's a bowl team that you guys like played down to the wire on the
Oh
road
yeah.
too. I mean, it's a tough environment to play in at Rynearson Stadium with all those tarps. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, I hope
In the gray field.
yeah, in the gray field. I hope Eastern Michigan Twitter doesn't come after me for that one because they too were a fixture on Army schedule for a lot of years, and I have no animosity. I just wanted to take a shot and be produce more bulletin board material,
They have a
but
great coach. I would love their coach.
oh
He's
yeah.
he's just a winner.
Yeah, Chris Creighton's amazing because I would have never thought, Eastern Michigan going to back bowls and everything. I would never thought that was an option for them. Not an
Yep.
option, but a reality. But that being said, I mean, Brian, thank you again.
Thank you, Omar.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next time we talk UMass. Gonna want to talk about some of these independent matchups coming up. I mean, so hopefully, like in the season, we get to chop it up.
We got Missouri at home in Amherst, so that should be really interesting.
I'm surprised they didn't force you guys to move that to Gillette. That's a victory in itself. If you guys don't win on the field, the game being at McGuirk is a victory in itself.
It is.
But yeah, that being said, thank you again, Brian. I know I sound like a broken record. Thank you over and over again, but I really am grateful. And for everyone listening, thank you for listening. Just make sure if you're not subscribed, you subscribe so you know whenever Jackson and I or me and any guest come out with any content or mini documentaries. And until next time, everyone, peace, love, and soul. I'm the Burger Popper, and I'll see you later.